The enigma of the giants at the dawn of humanity. The sound of creation echoed. Humanity blossomed on earth, but a dark mystery wove its plot in the shadows of primordial history. An enigmatic phrase in Genesis 6:4 resonates through the millennia. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that. Who were these colossal beings? Mere myth, or a key piece in the tapestry of a biblical past that challenges our understanding? Prepare to dive into the depths of an enigma that haunted the beginnings of civilization and still forces us to confront forgotten truths. The Bible as a portal to the distant past. In its millennia-old pages, the Bible is not just a book of faith, but a portal to a past that science for a long time considered impossible. How can the scriptures reveal details about a race that some call men of renown, and others, descendants of an unnatural union between the sons of God and the daughters of men? We will explore the different theological interpretations and the profound importance of these narratives, which invite us to decipher the story of a threat that rose up against the divine and human order. More than stature, the true power of the Nephilim. The designation giants for the Nephilim was not limited to their imposing height. Could this be a reference to their magnitude of strength, power, fame, and legendary deeds, as some scholars suggest? The mysterious language that surrounds them serves as an irresistible invitation to uncover what really made them a threat to early humanity, a terror that would echo through the ages, culminating in a cosmic cleansing. Fallen angels and human women. The most popular, and perhaps the most disturbing, interpretation of the Nephilim describes them as the offspring of a forbidden union between fallen angels and human women. Genesis 6:4 narrates this shocking intersection, where the sons of God came to the daughters of men, generating these beings. The theological implications are deep and frightening. Did these celestial beings abandon their proper dwelling to corrupt the human lineage? This view, present in ancient texts, raises questions about the nature of sin, angelic rebellion, and the fragility of humanity in the face of supernatural influences. The descendants of Seth and Cain. An alternative theory suggests that the sons of God were the godly lineage of Seth, descendants of those who called on the name of the Lord, while the daughters of men were the rebellious descendants of Cain. This less supernatural interpretation points to an internal corruption of human society, where the pursuit of power and carnal pleasure led to widespread degeneration. This union, regardless of its origins, resulted in a wickedness that multiplied on the earth, culminating in a scenario of unprecedented violence.
Giants of fame and power. The ambiguity of the term Nephilim, from the Hebrew, those who fall upon others, or mighty ones, leads us to question whether their stature was only physical, or if it referred to a magnitude of strength and influence. Were they tyrants and conquerors who filled the earth with violence, dominating the weak and imposing their will on ancient society? The mysterious language that surrounds them invites us to unravel the true terror these beings represented for divine and human order. Pre-flood violence and corruption. The presence of the Nephilim on earth is intrinsically linked to a period of increasing wickedness and violence before the flood. The Bible describes a scenario where every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. These powerful and fearsome beings may have contributed to an era of depravity where justice and righteousness were subverted. The earth was corrupt before the face of God, provoking the wrath of the Lord. The impact on ancient society. Imagine a world where giant bullies roamed the earth, imposing their strength and destabilizing social structures. Morality disintegrated, and society plunged into unprecedented chaos. Women were treated as objects, children were sacrificed in dark rituals, and the poor were left to die in the streets. Greed and exploitation reigned, and goodness was seen as weakness. The prosperity of cities like Sodom and Gomorrah, although impressive on the outside, hid a rottenness within, a reflection of the corruption spreading throughout the pre-flood world. The dilemma of free will and divine intervention. In the face of such corruption and violence, the great historical dilemma arises. How would God react to this widespread degeneration? Divine sovereignty confronts human free will. The flood, a drastic and purifying act, becomes God's response to the iniquity and corruption of the earth. A decision aimed at destroying all flesh to preserve the divine plan and make way for a new beginning. The judgment on corrupted flesh. The narrative of the flood is a testimony to divine power and justice. It was God's categorical response to the iniquity and corruption that had taken over the earth. The Lord decided to destroy all flesh, from man to animal, to purify the world of its depravity. The cry of the earth, full of violence, reached the heavens, and the only solution to eradicate the proliferating evil was an act of cosmic judgment.
The construction of the ark, a divine logistical solution. Amid imminent destruction, God chose a righteous man, Noah, for a mission that defied human understanding: to build a monumental ark with colossal dimensions, 300 cubits long, 50 wide, and 30 high, approximately 135 meters long, 22.5 meters wide, and 13.5 meters high. This work of ancient engineering was an extraordinary feat for its time, built without cranes, without power tools, without heavy machinery. The choice of gopher wood, a water-resistant material, and the ideal proportions for stability in turbulent waters reveal a sophisticated knowledge of naval architecture, divinely inspired. It was a decades-long work, facing ridicule and the weight of the responsibility to preserve God's creation. The legacy of water, cleansing, and new beginning. The flood was not just an act of destruction, but one of purification and a new beginning for humanity. The waters that covered the highest mountains symbolized the cleansing of the corrupted earth. Noah and his family, along with representatives of each animal species, emerged into a new era, sealed by the covenant of the rainbow, a symbol of God's promise never again to destroy the earth by flood. The flood reaffirmed God's power over chaos and his faithfulness in preserving those who obey him. And also afterward, the post-flood reappearance. Despite the global purification, the enigmatic phrase, "and also after that," in Genesis 6:4, suggests the persistence of giants after the flood. Were they remnants of the pre-flood lineage, or a new manifestation of these colossal beings? The scriptures give us hints that the terror of the giants had not ended. The Anakim and Rephaim, the terror in Canaan. Centuries after the flood, the spies sent to explore the promised land found peoples of great stature. In Numbers 13:33, the presence of giants, the sons of Anak, terrified the people of Israel, making them feel like grasshoppers. These Anakim and Rephaim, powerful and imposing peoples, represented a frightening obstacle to the conquest of the land that God had promised. Fear filled many hearts, and faith was put to the test. Dilemmas of conquest, faith versus fear. The confrontation with these giants in Canaan brought a historical dilemma to the Israelites. Faced with such formidable enemies, fear threatened to stifle the divine promise. However, faith in God proved crucial to overcoming dread. Figures like Caleb and Joshua, who wholly followed the Lord, demonstrated the courage needed to face the unknown and trust in God's promises, even when human reason dictated otherwise.
Goliath, the last breath of an ancient lineage. Through the centuries, the legend of the giants seemed to diminish. But then, in a valley, a colossal figure rose who personified the terror of yore: Goliath, the Philistine from Gath. Over 290 tall, he was possibly one of the distant descendants of the Nephilim, an echo of the past that defied the armies of Israel. His daily challenge echoed through the valley, paralyzing even the bravest warriors with fear. David and the Stone of Faith, an unequal battle against the giant, stood not an experienced warrior, but a young shepherd, David. Without heavy armor or an imposing sword, David faced the fearsome Goliath with a sling, 5 stones, and above all, unwavering faith in divine power. His declaration, "The battle is the Lord's," thundered like a storm, turning an unequal battle into a powerful metaphor of the triumph of faith over fear and of God's strength over human arrogance. The silencing of the giants, victory and consequences. The fall of Goliath, struck by the stone with lethal precision, marked, for many, the end of the giant's threat in biblical history. This victory, achieved not by human strength but by divine intervention, reflected God's sovereignty and power in protecting his people. Goliath's defeat was not only the end of a physical giant, but the silencing of an ancestral echo of corruption and fear, opening the way for a new era. The echo of giants in modern faith. The mystery of the Nephilim, of the beings who challenged ancient humanity, continues to echo in our modern faith. Their story reminds us of the constant battle between good and evil, of humanity's fragility in the face of corruption, and of the need for unwavering trust in divine providence. These accounts, though ancient, invite us to reflect on the spiritual wars we face in our own lives and to seek strength that comes from above. Lessons of courage and obedience. The journey of Noah, the faith of Caleb and Joshua before the Anakim, and David's boldness against Goliath serve as vivid reminders of the importance of obedience to God and the courage to face the unknown. Like Joshua and Caleb, who wholly followed the Lord, we are called to trust in the divine promise, even in the face of the giants that rise in our own lives. The promise of final victory. In the end, the story of the Nephilim and of all the challenges that humanity has faced since the dawn of time points to a message of hope and the certainty that God is sovereign and in control. As the Apostle Paul reminds us in Romans 16:20, "And the God of peace will soon crush Satan under your feet," a powerful promise that every giant, whether physical or spiritual, will be defeated by divine power, and the final victory will belong to those who trust in the Lord.